The Key of Life.
It's Marianne Hobbs. You're listening to BBC Radio 6 Music, and I'm absolutely thrilled to bits to say that my very special guest on the show today is the very mighty Johnny Marr.
Well, it's nice to be here in this utopian, new, very muted, high-tech environment. It's nice. It's a nice place. I've been here a few times now. As long as the music's all right as well, we're okay.
I want to talk to you a bit about singing. How do you actually discover a voice? How do you find that? Where do you turn? How do you learn to sing?
Right, well, with me, I used to do it because I was elected to do it in my teens when I was in bands. It was like, okay, Johnny, you know, you've got the best haircut, you've got to do the singing, right? Which is fair enough, right? It was brilliant haircut. And then I stopped and just wanted to concentrate on being a guitar player and getting a partner. And then, of course, you know, the Smiths happened and that utterly brilliant. So I didn't sing for ages. And then when I played with the Pretenders for a while, Chrissy Hind got me to sing backing vocals on songs, and I really enjoyed it. And she said to me, you should work on your singing because you've got a good sounding voice and you're just a chicken, really, for not singing. It's like, okay, well, if anyone else had said that, I might not have taken it so seriously, but because it was Chrissy Hind, I was like, all right, I'll do it, I'll work on my voice, you know, I'll start singing. And then the first thing I sang on was our version of 1969, the Stooges song, and I just sang this little backing vocal on it, and I really liked it. So I was singing BVs live. Then when I joined I was singing BVs on there. And then loads of stuff happened. Electronic, I'd sing in the studio. But when I started singing backing vocals with Modest Mouse, because Isaac's such a very, very powerful, Isaac Brock, such a powerful singer, you have to match him and still but just singing backing vocals, which I liked. Night after night through these monitors, you kind of get your thing together, you know? And then the Cribs singing, you know, Hey Scenesters, and some of the stuff on the record that I sang backing vocals on, Share the Same Skies and things like that, you have to sound pretty good. So I think I wasn't analysing it, but I knew that I was getting my thing together. And what's happened with what I do now is that I write songs that I like to sing. I think that's a big part of it. I like singing rock and roll's a kind of loose term for it, but I like singing punky, punchy singing. That's what I like. I don't really want to sing a big croony song. I love Lou Reed, early Lou Reed, before he got too croony. I love Ray Davis. I love Pete Shelley, and I love early David Bowie. None of those guys were singing in like a big sort of croony way. And the rock and roll singers, and that's why I like to sing. I've sort of found what I want to do, really, I think. So say like Perfect Day by Lou Reed, which is an incredible song to sing. I wouldn't really be interested in singing that kind of song. I like punk rock singing, you know. That's what I like to sing. And so I can't do the other stuff. So anyway, that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it.
Do you find it difficult to actually put a guitar down?
I've usually, well, put it this way, I feel very relaxed when I've got one with me, you know. I always do better interviews if I'm sat with a guitar. If someone's come to interview me and I'm in a studio, even if I've taken off to, obviously I'm not plugged in playing, but I used to occasionally just say to the journalist, well, do you mind if I just put this on? Oh, no, it's fine. Because it just kind of winds me down and makes me feel grounded, I think. I don't think I watch very much television, but usually if I'm watching TV, I'm sort of absent-mindedly picking around on a guitar. I think a lot of guitar players do the same. They'll tell you that they do the same. And it's kind of good for your technique as well, believe it or not. I don't practice. I never have ever practiced because I play for creativity's sake. You know, I don't sit down and go, must learn a scale, or I'm too impatient, really. But I think it's probably good for you. Keeps the exercise going, you know.
Yeah. And do you find songs emerging out of that process?
Oh, entirely, yeah. That's how. Yeah, the absent-minded kind of tinkering around is usually when you hit on something very natural because you're not trying too hard. Picasso once said that inspiration does exist, but it has to find you working, and I absolutely hold to that. I like that. I get in there and, right, okay, I'm writing a song or I'm going to do a demo or whatever, and, you know, a lot of it can be craft, And then the most inspired moments, bang, something completely different will just come along and say, right, put that track down. Oh, this has sent me off on this tangent, and it happened really quick. But I've yet to be walking in the supermarket and some incredible ideas come, and I've had to write it down on a napkin or the back of a cigarette packet. I was really, envious of those people.
It's really fascinating, though, isn't it, when you look at the distinction between the conscious mind and the subconscious, and how much the subconscious just seems to absorb of its own accord and just flick occasionally to the conscious mind when it feels that it's got something that's useful.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so many examples in art. There was that thing again, inspiration, whether it's in architecture or whatever, of those things happening, great people telling those stories of how these moments of inspiration have struck. When I'm asked about how Sin is now, over the years and the inspiration for it, and I mentioned this record by Hamilton Bohannon called Disco Stomp, which came out in the 70s, which is a really dumb disco tune, and the guitar just goes jink-a-jink-a-jink-a-jink-a-jink-a-jink on one chord. It's not at all profound, and I must have been 12 when I was obsessed with that record, and then I forgot about it until the morning around How Soon Is Now. And this little rhythm that I used to like, and I remember the thing with it. I was sitting in the back of my parents' car, driving to go on holiday to Wales, boiling hot in the back of the car, because it was a hit. It had been on the radio, and I listened to it, and then I was entirely waiting for it to be played again. So I was like, oh, it's going to be played again in about an hour, 2 hours, or whatever. All these records in the charts were coming and going, and I'd be fixated on waiting for that dumb little pop record to come on again. And that came out in a song that people talk to me about for 30 years. It's amazing. Things sort of mean so much to you. How if you're a creative person or whatever, I think you put two and two together and make five, don't you?
Absolutely.
That's a really good thing. I mean, I saw that with brilliant evidence of that with Bernard Sumner. His love of Kraftwerk and how those records were made, and the wonder. He used to sit listening in wonder at how these records. And then when Carl Bartos from Kraftwerk joined Electronic, and we went over to Dusseldorf, and we went in his studio, and Bernard was saying, "Oh, what synth did you use on that? And how did you make that?" And Carl was going, "Oh, I just switched this box on and just went to that and just went like that." And he said, "No, wow, in New Order we tried to make that sound. We took 4 days making it, and I turned this upside down, and I stuck that wire into that, and I put this microphone into that." And Carl said, "Oh, well, maybe we should be sampling New Order." So, but that was a good example of putting 2 and 2 together and making 5 and getting things wrong, and innovation. I think that's what it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I hear. One of the things that I have to say is that I admire you so much for your grace and your ability as a guitarist to take a step back and to contribute something with an absolutely feather-like touch, really. Do you know what I'm saying?
Thanks very much. Well, I appreciate that you said that, because it's something I try and do. Like, I try and be appropriate. Even if it's a full-on, aggressive, outgoing song, you do whatever's appropriate. And I grew up as, absolute obsessive of guitar culture. Every aspect of it, really loved, except a lot of the music, right, in the 70s. But my generation of guys, at the end of the late 70s and early 70s, there was a lot about that stuff, the music, that was really quite gauche and very, very macho. I mean, I'm quite proud of the generation that I come out of, really, which became known as indie, because sexism was completely out, and there was an unspoken sort of political togetherness between all the musicians, even though we didn't know it at the time, and the music press too, because we had things to be in opposition to. It was an idealistic time, and a big part of it was like, thou shalt not put thy foot on the monitor and act like a macho dick. It was, it was rule number 4B. It was in there, and be a little bit more sort of have a bit more of a kind of sensitivity about it, even if you were a rock guitar player. Just that kind of gross kind of rock and roll thing was done to death, and that's the time that I come out of. And then the other thing was that when I was learning, people who I really admired weren't. They were absolutely great at what they did, but they weren't showboating. People like George Harrison, obviously, and Keith Richards, even though they were these classic rock icons, they seemed to have a sort of kind of connoisseur's taste about them, and it wasn't this gauche kind of, showboaty kind of testosterone-y thing, and all of those post-punk ethics and principles, they stay with you. No matter what, they just sort of stick with you,
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah. But it is one of the most beautiful aspects of everything that you do, I think, that sense of reserve and that sense of knowing exactly how much is enough.
Well, I'm glad that people notice it. Occasionally in America, especially on my solo shows, this has happened more than once. Kind of funny. My sound man has told me, some guy in the audience was going, "What's with this guy? Man, he can't play, man. Anyone can do that." And it's kind of missing the point, really. I'm not trying to lift weights out there. I'm just trying to make music. These people, this approach to guitar, like it's like some Olympic, like it's like a sort of an Ironman or a sort of, like a Olympic sport. I don't think so, mate. I'm trying to say something here.
Yeah. Tell me how it feels at the centre of the stage in the spotlight. What's it like?
Well, when I first did it, in 2002, 2003, I thought I was going to be terrified, and the truth is, when I walked on at the first gig, I think some weird sense of false bravado came over me, right? Because I don't know what happened, but it felt okay. I certainly didn't feel like an interloper or that I needn't have been there. And then the other thing as well is that because I've been in bands from being a kid, I know what I expect of the front man. There's a responsibility. I mean, it's a kind of a crass analogy, but it's a bit like when I was a kid on Bonfire Night, these guys, it was a tradition that guys from the other estate would come over and burn our bonfire down and fight with us, and it was always the toughest one at the front. And on my estate, you hope that the tough guy was going to show up and be at the front and take care of everybody. And it's a little bit like that when you're in a band. That's the front man needs to do that for you, really. I feel like that's my responsibility to the people who I ask to play in my band, really. If the PA switches off and the roof falls down or someone starts, freaking out or whatever, then, get behind me, because that's my job, really, to take care of business, That's what I impose on a front man.
Yeah.
And all the frontmen I've worked with closely have all been absolutely great at it. And Morrissey was amazing at it for a number of reasons. So much is made of the differences between us two, and people like to really stir stuff up. But I can say, as the guitar player with my sort of background, that we walked out there on some stages where audiences just didn't know what we were about in the early days. And that's, we were playing quirky, unusual, original music that was yet to be loved by everybody, shall we say. And he went out there and fronted everybody out and didn't bottle it and put on a really great show and was super, super brave. And I saw that, I absolutely hope I'm not in that position, by the way. I hope at this point I just get complete blanket adoration before I go out there. Or else I'm going to retreat.
You are right, though. I mean, you have to become Leonidas to a degree, don't you, when you're out there?
Yeah, wax rhapsodic about it, but also the easy thing is that if you've got a bunch of tunes that you really like singing and that you think are pretty good, then that takes care of a lot of business as well, You've got to have more than just the show-off gene.
Well, listen, thank you so much for being with us today. It's such a pleasure to talk to you. It really,
Thanks.
really is. And
yeah.
Do you know what? Just before I dispatch you back into the snowstorm, I'd like you to play one of your favourite songs for us and tell us why you love it so much.
Okay. Okay, this has been quite a philosophical conversation, which has been fantastic, by the way. But I'm going to blow the mood up by playing Shot by Both Sides by Magazine. because the thing with rock and roll, as 50s rock and roll and its explosion of energy and excitement and delivery and, oh my God, you know, who's this guy, Elvis Presley, and all of that. I can really imagine why 30 years before my time, you know, teenagers were like going crazy for that. But when I had Shot by Both Sides, it did the same thing for me. There's a great guitar playing and it's really exciting, killing band, rocking, but the lyrics are political and quite funny and quite nerdy and quite knowing, right? And why I mention rock and roll is because that's my rock and roll, really. And Manchester magazine, really. This was the sound of Manchester as well, sort of pre-Joy Division, I think. I think after magazine, the sound of Manchester was Joy Division. But I think Joy Division and a philosophical conversation was just too much for anyone to bear today. So I think I'll just maybe shake it up a little bit with Shot by Both Sides.
Shots by both sides, on the run to the outside of everything. Shots by both sides, they must have come to us.
I wanted to ask you about art. Do you have a favourite painting, a favourite sculpture, a favourite building, maybe?
Yeah, I've got a few of those, yeah. Rather kind of unsurprisingly and a bit predictably, I really, really like pop art. You know, I like the original pop art. I like... Because I'm such a fan, if I like somebody, I like them like almost everything they do, you know. And so I like Robert Rauschenberg a lot. And I like Jasper John's white original American flag. I think it's very, very beautiful.
It's really powerful.
Yeah, it's super beautiful, and you can look at it in so many ways. There's just a thing about the energy of that movement, because I'm not like, in spite of what people might think by looking at me, I'm not all about retro, but there's things about that happening in pop art that I think are still move at the speed of modern life, which is what I like. And I'm the same with poetry, for example. One of the things I love about doing what I do, and that went into this record, actually, was that I think that pop records are the greatest format for the sort of poetry that I like. When it's done right, it moves at the speed of my life, you know. It doesn't all have to be fast. But see, I really like Philip Larkin, for example. I think he's very funny, you know, and I like what he's doing. But I have to go and have a nap after. But halfway through reading it, I have to have a nap, in all honesty, you know. And I really like Ferlin Getty's poetry because I like the speed that moves at. But the vernacular and the lingo is of a particular time that is not of my life, you know. But rock records, pop records, when they're really done really well, it's the greatest poetry, I think. You know, it's punchy, it can be funny, and I like that it's repetitive, dang, 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 you know, I like that it's commercial. So I think it's a great art form, and then you put it in a sleeve. This is why I love 45 so much as well. You line all those sleeves up with it, great photographs and good graphics and all of that. It's like, wow, this is like amazing, you know, amazing street art. So that's my approach to, that's why I love pop art, really. Could go on and on, really. I really like a lot of things. Yeah.